My name's Erica. If you asked me how I started, I'd say with nothing fancy, just a girl from a regular family, with parents who loved me more than anything. My life was pretty standard until I hit college, where I met Jack. He was in the same restaurateur program, and man, did we click. We were both dreamers, aiming to carve out a little empire of our own. Ever think about opening your own place, Erica? Jack asked one night as we were cramming for finals over cheap coffee and day-old donuts. All the time, I admitted, not taking my eyes off the business plan spread across the table. Imagine a cozy little spot, authentic Italian, the kind of place where everyone feels like family. Jack grinned, his eyes lighting up. We could do it, you know. Run it together. What's stopping us? Money, I sighed, a laugh escaping despite the truth of it. Loads and loads of money. But life has a funny way of turning dreams into reality. When my parents passed away suddenly, a brutal car crash that took them too soon, they left me their house and a tidy sum of $400,000. After the grief, the silence of the house was overwhelming. It was Jack who stepped up. Let's do it, Erica. Let's make your dream come true. For you, for them, he said one evening as we sat in the quiet living room, surrounded by memories. Are you sure? I asked, feeling the weight of the decision. It's a huge risk. Jack took my hands in his. I'm in if you're in, all the way. With that, we got married right after graduation and poured every dime and ounce of energy into our first restaurant. I designed the interiors myself, choosing warm yellows and reds, and we both developed the menu, testing recipes until midnight most days. The first few years were tough, no lie. There were nights I fell into bed with my shoes still on, too tired to move. But seeing our dream take shape, watching the 3 restaurants flourish under our care, made every aching muscle worth it. Mom, why are you always at the restaurant? My son, Danny, asked one day. He was about 7, his face serious as only a kid's can be. Because it's our family's place, sweetheart. We built it so we could have a good life, you know? I explained as I tied my apron, preparing for another long shift. But you're always working, he pouted, and it stung, because he was right. I know, kiddo. But I promise, we're doing this for us, for our future. One day, you'll see it was worth it, I said, kissing his forehead before rushing out the door, the bell jingling behind me. After years of what seemed like marital bliss and bustling restaurant nights, I started noticing the cracks. Jack and I weren't the dream team we used to be. He was pulling away, distant, like he was always somewhere else even when he was right there. It was a regular Tuesday evening, and I was doing the books in the office when Jack walked in, late again, his jacket slung carelessly over one shoulder. Jack, we need to talk about the Henderson event. They want to book the big room, and I can't make that call without you, I said, trying to catch his eye as he rifled through some mail. Yeah, sure, whatever you think is best, he muttered, not looking up. That was his new thing, agreeing without listening. It drove me nuts. Jack, I snapped, louder this time. This is important. Can you please focus? He finally looked at me, his eyes tired, or maybe just uninterested. Erica, I trust your judgment. Just handle it, okay? I've got a lot on my mind. That was another thing. What exactly was on his mind these days? I used to know every thought he had. Now? Not so much. One night, I just couldn't take the guessing games anymore. We were in bed, the only time we ever were in the same room it seemed, and I turned to him, my voice shaky but needing the truth. Jack, is there someone else? The words felt like broken glass coming out of my mouth. He was silent for a long moment, the kind of silence that tells you everything you don't want to hear. Yeah, there is, he said finally, his voice flat. No anger, no sorrow, just cold, hard fact. It just happened. We've changed. I've changed. You've changed. It's not just one thing. The next day was a blur. I moved through the motions at the restaurant, smiling at customers, checking on orders, all while feeling like I was outside my body, looking down at some stranger living my life. When I finally got home, Jack was there, sitting at the kitchen table with that look on his face, the one that used to mean he had something serious to say. "Erica, I think we should talk about what this means for us," he said, as I dropped my keys on the counter, not ready to sit, not ready to hear it. "What's there to talk about, Jack? You've made your choice," I said, my voice cold, steadier than I felt. "We should get a divorce. There's nothing left to salvage." He didn't argue with that. Maybe he wanted to, or maybe he was just as tired as I was. Tired of pretending, tired of hiding, tired of whatever we had become. The following weeks were a whirlwind of meetings with lawyers and dividing up the life we had built together. I kept the house and half of everything else. It was fair, I suppose, but it felt like paying a huge price for a life I wasn't sure I wanted anymore. That's the thing about building something with someone, it becomes so intertwined that tearing it apart leaves everything looking a bit frayed, a bit worn, a shadow of what it used to be. Starting over is like standing on a cliff edge, the fear of the drop, but also the thrill of the unknown. After Jack, I spent a lot of time figuring things out, getting the restaurants running smooth without him, and just being alone. It wasn't bad, not really. Gave me time to think, to breathe. But then, like a cliché in some corny romance novel, Tom walked into my life, a lawyer with a killer smile that probably won too many cases on charm alone. He came into the restaurant one busy Friday night, his little girl, Emily, in tow. They were hard to miss, she had the same bright laugh as her dad. "A glass of your house red for me, and a lemonade for the little miss," Tom smiled at me, not knowing I owned the place. I was filling in for the hostess that night, just trying to keep busy. Throughout the night, I kept catching glimpses of them from the corner of my eye, him explaining bits of the menu to her, her listening so intently like the world depended on it. It was adorable. Made me miss having that kind of simple interaction, which had become so rare in my life. As they were leaving, Tom stopped by the register where I was cashing out another customer. "Thanks for a wonderful dinner," he said. "The food was excellent, and so was the service." "Glad you enjoyed it," I replied, handing the receipt to the customer before turning to give Tom my full attention. "And your company seemed pretty top-notch too." That was the beginning of everything. Tom started coming around more often, sometimes with Emily, sometimes alone. We'd chat, casual at first, then deeper conversations as the weeks turned into months. He was different, thoughtful, and real. One evening, he closed his menu and leaned back in his chair, watching me as I wiped down the counter. "Erica, would you like to go out sometime? I mean, outside of this place?" I paused, cloth in hand, not sure if I was ready. "Like a date?" "Yeah, a date," he smiled, looking a bit nervous himself. As things started getting serious with Tom, I knew it was time for him to meet my boys, Danny and Sam. I won't lie, I was nervous about how they'd take to him. They'd had a rough time after their dad and I split up, and bringing someone new into our lives felt huge. One Saturday, I decided to throw a small barbecue at our place. Casual, no pressure. Tom came over with Emily, and right off, I could see the boys were sizing him up, a bit standoffish at first, which was expected. Tom, bless his heart, didn't push it. He tossed a football to Danny. "Hey champ, think you can teach me a few tricks?" Danny, a natural athlete, lit up at the chance to show off his skills. "Sure, but only if you can keep up," he shot back with a grin. Sam, quieter and more into his books, hung back a bit. Tom noticed and wandered over to him later with a comic book in hand. "Heard you're the expert on these. Think you could explain the multiverse theory to me?" "It's way over my head." Sam's eyes, usually glued to his tablet, looked up, surprised and a bit impressed. Sure, I can do that." Watching them talk, seeing Tom genuinely interested in what Sam had to say, it eased my heart. And Emily, she was a gem, trying to include Sam in the conversation, showing off her own collection of superhero stickers. Just when I thought I had left all the drama behind and could finally get some peace with Tom and the kids, my past came knocking, or rather, ringing, on my day off. I was in the middle of making lunch when my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in a while. It was Jack. My heart sank a bit, not ready to hear whatever he had to say. "Erica, you're not going to believe this, but I'm suing you," Jack's voice chirped through the speaker, too cheerful for the words he was spitting out. "You got more than your fair share in the divorce, and I've been talking to some very good lawyers. My new father-in-law's picking up the tab. We're going to make sure I get what I deserve, which is a lot more than what I walked away with." My head was spinning. "You've got to be kidding me. We split everything fair and square. You agreed to it." "Yeah, well, I've changed my mind. You don't deserve the good life, Erica. Not after how boring and ugly you turned out. I'm going to make sure you pay for it," he sneered, and I could almost see the smug look on his face. I couldn't hold back the tears. They started to fall, hot and fast, as the shock turned to anger, then hurt. Tom walked in right then, his face clouding over when he saw me. "Babe, what's wrong? Who was that on the phone?" It was Jack. "He's suing me. Says he didn't get enough from the divorce and now wants to ruin me," I managed to get out between sobs. A couple of weeks later, the nightmare continued when I bumped into Jack and his new wife, Lara, at the school parking lot. I was there to pick up the boys, and there they were, leaning against their car, looking like they owned the place. Lara spotted me first and smirked. "Look who it is. If it isn't the sad little ex-wife. Not taking very good care of yourself, are you, Erica? Don't worry, Tom will be out the door soon enough, just like Jack was." I felt my face flush with anger. "Watch your mouth, Lara. You know nothing about my life." Jack chuckled, joining in. "Oh, but we do, Erica. We know enough to see you're failing miserably. Maybe it's time someone else took over raising your kids. You're clearly not up to the task." "That's enough, Jack," I shouted, my voice louder than I intended. The few parents milling about turned to look. "You should be ashamed, talking like this in front of your own children." They walked away, leaving me there, fuming and humiliated. The drive back was quiet, my mind racing a mile a minute. How had my life come to this? Being threatened by my ex, insulted in front of my kids. But as we drove, my resolve hardened. Jack wanted a fight? He'd get one. Tom was already home when we arrived, and he could see the fire in my eyes as I walked through the door. "Babe, you okay? You look like you're ready to go to war," he said, a worried look crossing his face as he came over to help with the boys. "I am. I want to hire a private investigator," I said without preamble, dropping my keys on the counter with a clatter. "Jack's up to something, and I want to know what it is." The next day, Tom set up a meeting with the investigator, a grizzled guy named Mike, who had seen more shady dealings than a street corner in a noir film. We laid out everything, and Mike nodded, scribbling notes in a worn leather notebook. It didn't take long for Mike to get back to us. The news he brought wasn't just good, it was golden. Jack hadn't changed one bit, still the same cheater he always was, but this time he was playing around with a stripper. I was sitting at the kitchen table when I forwarded the evidence to Lara, adding just a note. "Thought you should know what your perfect husband is up to." The response was quicker than I expected. Lara called me, her voice choked with tears and something else, shame, maybe? "Erica, I'm so sorry," she stammered out between sobs. "I had no idea. I was so horrible to you, and now, Jack." "Lara, stop. It's not your fault he's a jerk," I found myself saying, the anger softening as I listened to her cry. "Look, I understand more than anyone what it's like to be lied to by that man." There was a heavy pause, and then Lara sniffled loudly. Can I help? I mean, I want to make this right. Not just for me, but for you too, Erica." I was taken aback. This was the last thing I expected. "Let's meet. We can talk about it." "Thank you, Erica. Really, thank you," she said, her voice cracking again. As I hung up the phone, a mix of emotions swirled through me. I had started this to protect myself and hit back at Jack, but now it felt like something more. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about setting things right. Somehow, against all odds, Lara and I were on the same side now. This battle had just taken a very unexpected turn. Sitting in the little cafe with the red awning, waiting for Lara, felt surreal. Just weeks ago, she was an enemy, laughing at me alongside Jack. Now, she could be an unexpected ally. The bell above the door jingled, snapping me out of my thoughts as Lara walked in, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. Her walk was determined as she slid into the booth across from me, clutching a bulky folder. "Erica, thank you for meeting me," she started, her voice shaky but sincere. I nodded, straight to the point. "What do you have for me, Lara?" Without a word, she pushed the folder across the table. "Everything you need to know about Jack's recent activities." I opened the folder, scanning the documents rapidly. My heart sank with each page. There were emails and texts between Jack and several of my top employees, offering them double their current pay to jump ship and join a new venture he was planning. "This is just the beginning," Lara said. "He's been spreading rumors about your restaurants. Claims of unsanitary conditions, poor service, even paid people to write bad reviews online." The world seemed to spin a little. "And the lawsuits?" "He's gearing up to claim you've hidden profits, that you cheated him out of his rightful share during the divorce," she added, her eyes darkening. I leaned back, absorbing the blow. This was worse than I thought. Jack was playing dirty, trying to take everything I'd worked so hard to build. "Does he know you're doing this?" I asked, eyeing her carefully. Lara shook her head vigorously. "No, and he can't know. Not yet. I can't believe I was so blind. Just beat him, Erica. Show him he can't push us around." I took the documents home and showed them to Tom, who read through them with a furrowed brow. "We've got him," Tom said confidently after a long silence. "With this evidence, we can not only defend against his claims, but go on the offensive. He won't know what hit him." Buoyed by Tom's confidence, I knew what I had to do next. The following day, I called a meeting with all my staff at the main restaurant. The air was tense as everyone gathered, whispering about the urgent summon. "Thank you for coming on such short notice," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I'm sure you've heard rumors lately, bad reviews, talks of unsanitary conditions. It's all a targeted attack on us, by my ex-husband Jack." The room was silent for a moment before Marco, now my head chef, stood up. "We're with you, Erica. We know the truth. We see how hard you work, how much you care. Jack's got nothing on you." Nods and murmurs of agreement followed, the team's solidarity palpable. "Thank you," I said, feeling a surge of relief and determination. "And I want to take this a step further. Starting today, we're installing live cameras in the kitchens. Let our customers see the truth for themselves." The announcement was met with applause, the team rallied by the proactive approach. I didn't stop there. I took to social media, posting a video explaining the situation. "Come see for yourself," I invited our customers. "Take a tour, watch our chefs at work. We have nothing to hide." The response was overwhelming. Bookings for kitchen tours came flooding in, and the community support was incredible. Our reservations spiked, people eager to stand with us against the underhanded tactics, trying to undermine our integrity. A week later, Jack called me and offered to discuss our differences. The meeting was set in one of those upscale places that Jack always liked, the kind where they charge you $10 just to breathe their air. As soon as we were all seated, Jack wasted no time. "Erica, I'm willing to be generous here," he started, his voice oozing false charm. "I'm ready to forgive you for all the trouble you've caused, and all I'm asking in return is a couple of your restaurants and, let's say, a small compensation of $1 million. I stared at him, stunned by his audacity. Then, the absurdity of his demand hit me, and I couldn't help but burst out laughing. "You're joking, right? Please tell me this is a joke." "I'm dead serious, Erica. It's more than fair, considering the circumstances," Jack sneered, looking at Lara. "Tell them, honey. Tell them your dad's backing us up." Lara's expression was unreadable at first, then she turned to Jack, her voice calm but cold enough to chill the wine. Actually, Jack, there's been a change of plans. Jack blinked, confused. What are you talking about? Lara stood up, her chair scraping back sharply. She reached into her purse, pulling out a stack of papers. I'm talking about this, Jack. She threw the papers on the table, they scattered slightly, the word divorce visible on the top sheet. Jack's face went white as he picked up the papers, his hands trembling. Lara, what, why? Because I know about your affairs, all of them. Your sweet stripper was the final straw. Lara's voice broke slightly, but she quickly composed herself. And my father, he's indeed getting his lawyers involved, but not to help you. They'll be representing me in the divorce and suing you for everything you've done. She turned to me, her eyes softer. Erica, I should have believed you from the start. I'm so sorry for everything. I reached out, squeezing her hand briefly. It's okay, Lara. We both fell for his lies. But it's over now. Lara nodded, pulling her hand back and taking a deep breath. It is. She looked back at Jack, who was now slumped in his chair, his face buried in his hands. Goodbye, Jack. With that, Lara walked out of the restaurant, her head held high. The silence that followed was heavy. Jack finally looked up, his eyes red. Erica, please, I can change. Don't let her do this. Don't let her ruin me. Tom's laugh was harsh, echoing slightly in the suddenly too quiet restaurant. You did that all on your own, Jack. Erica has nothing to do with it. And as for that lawsuit you were so eager about, expect one from us for defamation. And trust me, we have more than enough to bury you. We stood up, ready to leave this mess behind. Jack remained seated, a broken figure who'd finally run out of moves. The courtroom was hushed as Tom and I waited for the judge to deliver the final verdict. My hands were clammy, clasped tightly together in my lap, while Tom, ever the rock, gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. The judge looked over the rim of his glasses, his voice steady and clear. In the matter of the defamation and damage to reputation brought by Ms. Erica against Mr. Jack, the court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Ms. Erica. It is ordered that Mr. Jack pay a sum of $500,000 in damages. A gasp went through the courtroom, mostly from Jack's side, but the sound was music to my ears. Tom leaned over, his whisper just for me. We did it, babe. You stood your ground, and you won. I could hardly believe it. After everything Jack had put me through, justice was finally served. I felt a tear slip down my cheek, not of sorrow, but of relief, of closure. But our legal victories didn't end there. Lara, true to her word, had gone after Jack with everything she had. Her father's lawyers were relentless, and Jack was ordered to pay a massive settlement for his infidelity and the emotional distress he caused. In the aftermath, Jack's restaurant empire began to falter. Saddled with debt and a tarnished reputation, he couldn't keep up. When his main restaurant came up for sale, Tom nudged me gently. You should buy it, turn it into something good. And I did. I purchased his restaurant at a fraction of its worth. One afternoon, as I surveyed my new property, Lara walked in. Since the trial, we'd found solace in our shared struggles and had become unlikely friends. Looks different when it's empty, doesn't it? She remarked, her voice echoing slightly in the vacant space. It does. But it won't be for long. I'm thinking of turning this place into a family-friendly venue, something the community can really enjoy. I shared, excited about the possibilities. We walked through the empty restaurant, planning and dreaming about what it could become. Lara, now free from Jack's shadow, was thinking about starting her own business, perhaps something in interior design. You've got an eye for it, I encouraged her. You helped me see the potential in this old place. As we stood there, talking about the future, I felt a profound sense of peace. The battles were over, the past finally put to rest. I had my family, my friends, and a future that looked brighter than it had in years. I never thought we'd end up here, Lara said, gesturing around us. Me neither, I laughed. But I'm glad we did. It's funny how life works out, isn't it? As we left the building, the sun was setting, casting long shadows and bathing the street in golden light. I took a deep breath, feeling truly free for the first time in years. The road hadn't been easy, but it led me here, to this moment, this feeling of complete and utter freedom.